Just as Ava reached out her hand, filled with hesitance yet hope, a mysterious message vibrated in Ryan's pocket. He pulled out the phone with trembling fingers, his heart pounding. The screen flashed with a name that felt like a cold knife. Carmen, it read. Carmen? The name echoed in his mind like an air horn, loud and jarring. She was his sister, the one he lost in the same car accident that left him in this chair. The very person who would never forgive him for surviving. Panic chased away the moment's magic, twisting like a river in a storm. He glanced at Ava, her small hand frozen in mid-air, a flicker of confusion crossing her innocent face. Sir? Her voice was small, uncertain. The laughter and chatter of the gala faded into a distant hum. All he could hear was his heart racing and the memories crashing around him. With a shaky breath, Ryan hit open. The message stared back at him, venomous and sharp. You think you can escape your past? I know what you did. The gala around them, so bright and elegant, now felt like a cage. The murmurs from the crowd cut through him like shards of glass. Did they sense it too? Did they know? The room held its breath. Every eye turned toward Ryan, whispers spiraling like smoke. What's happening? Someone said, voice heavy with shock. Is he all right? Then he looked at Ava again. Fear gripped him, twisting his gut. You need to leave now, he said, his voice harsh, urgent. Ava's face fell, confusion morphing into worry. But I just wanted to, please. It came out more desperate than he intended. Her eyes brimmed with understanding that cut him deep. The magic of the moment was gone. She was just a girl offering a flicker of hope, and he was drowning in darkness. In that moment, everything shifted. Ryan's phone buzzed again. Another message begging for his attention. I'll expose everything, Ryan. This can't stay buried. The words clawed at his conscience. They threatened to rip open the scars he fought so hard to hide. Before he could think, panic surged, pushing him forward. I'm sorry, Ava. It's not safe here. But as he turned, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall, with icy eyes and a smirk that dripped with malice. It was Leo, Ryan's former business partner. The betrayal flashed in an instant, a story more bitter than any leftovers. Leo had known all along. Looks like the little girl's not the only one in over her head, Leo sneered, voice dripping with mockery. You thought you could erase the past? Not a chance. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The elite, who moments ago had feasted on luxury, now stood as an audience to a raw and unraveling truth. Faces turned pale, eyes wide. Ava stood frozen, her reality cracking like old concrete. The world she tried to bridge with love was fracturing under the weight of Ryan's buried secrets. What does he mean? She whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Ryan's heart sank. For the first time that night, he felt the weight of his world crash around him. Exposed, terrified. As Leo advanced, a cold grin stretching across his face, Ryan knew this was the moment that would change everything. The threads of fate tangled, pulling Ava deeper into his darkness. And now, it felt like their worlds were destined to collide in the most catastrophic way. What would happen next? Could a poor girl's hope stand against the dark past of a millionaire? Ava stood frozen, her heart pounding like a drum, eyes wide as Ryan's past threatened to swallow them both. Leo loomed closer, his voice a dark melody, slicing through the tension. The crowd was electric, a mixture of gasps and whispers swirling around them like a shadowy fog. You think they care about you? Leo taunted, his smile as sharp as a knife. This little girl here? All she wants is a miracle. But you can't even save yourself. Ava's small hand trembled in the air, uncertainty clouding her face. What's happening? She whispered again, her voice barely above a breath. Ryan felt a storm brewing inside him. He was about to be dragged back into a nightmare he'd fought so hard to escape. But just as he opened his mouth to reassure her, the lights flickered, the chatter hushed into a whispering silence, and an unexpected blast echoed through the grand hall. An explosion of light and sound. Then, as if the world had paused for a heartbeat, a figure stepped through the smoke and chaos that erupted at the entrance. Tall and commanding, it was a woman in a striking red dress, her hair flowing like wild flames. "Stop, all of you," she shouted, her voice rich with authority and regret. Ryan squinted, trying to focus through the haze. Could it be Isla? He gasped, bewilderment flooding his senses. "Yes, it's me," she shouted, her eyes fierce and determined. "This needs to end now. I can't let you go through this alone anymore." The crowd shifted, tension rippling through them. The moment stretched thin, slicing through layers of confusion. Ava watched, heart pounding, as Isla collided with Ryan's past, like thunder cracking open the sky. "You're alive?" Ryan breathed, hope intertwining with disbelief. Memories rushed to him. Isla and the promises made, the laughter shared before everything shattered. But they'd lost each other in the wreckage of the accident. Hadn't they? Isla, Enough! She cut in, shaking her head fiercely. "I'm not here to argue or relive old memories. There are secrets you don't understand, and it's not just about you anymore." Ryan narrowed his eyes at her, and Ava felt a cold chill creep up her spine. What secrets? What was Isla hiding? Leo stepped back, surprise flickering in his dark eyes. "What do you mean?" She took a deep breath, glancing back at Ava, the embodiment of innocence wrapped in raw courage. Ava deserves to know the truth. We all do. And in that moment of quiet urgency, the unthinkable happened. The lights flickered back on, and Ava, sensing the turmoil between the adults, stepped forward. "What truth?" she asked, her voice steady, determined. As the crowd leaned in, their collective breath caught in the air. Isla's expression hardened. The accident wasn't just an accident. It was orchestrated. Someone wanted Ryan out of the way, and they'll stop at nothing. Ava's eyes widened. Shock rippled through the crowd. Gasps echoed. Hearts raced. What did this mean for Ryan? For her? The pieces felt heavy with implications. "Who?" Leo shouted, the false bravado cracking under the weight of revelation. Before Isla could answer, another phone buzzed sharply from Ryan's pocket, vibrating with urgency. He fumbled to take it out. The screen lit up with a video file attached, labeled "The Truth." His hands trembled. Ava's heart hammered, a wild drum in her chest. What lay beyond that screen? The world around them blurred into a haze of uncertainty and fear. All eyes locked on the unfolding chaos. "Do it," Isla urged, fierce intensity igniting her words. "Now, Ryan, share it." But as he gathered the courage to open the file, a chilling realization washed over him. The fight wasn't just for survival, it was for redemption, for understanding, and for an innocent girl whose life had suddenly entangled in a web of past mistakes and hidden truths. The moment hung in the air, suffocating and electric. What could spill from that screen? The answer threatened to change everything. Would it unite them or tear them apart? And as the music faded into silence, a shadow loomed over the truth, heavy with consequences that promised to rock their fragile world. What awaited them on the other side? The answers felt too dangerous to grasp, yet tantalizingly close as the moment stretched thin. Ryan stared at the buzzing phone in his hand. He could feel everyone's eyes, their breaths held in anticipation. The crowd had turned into a single entity, pulsing with tension, eyes wide, hearts racing. They wanted answers. He wanted clarity. "You have to open it, Ryan," Isla urged, stepping closer, determination in her gaze. "It's time to face the truth." With a shaky breath, Ryan pressed the button. The screen filled with a video labeled "The Truth." The bright colors and familiar faces shifted into view. His breath caught in his throat as he saw a memory flash before him. A sunny afternoon. Laughter echoed. A picnic near a sparkling lake. Ryan, fresh-faced and alive, smiling beside Isla. And then the scene shifted. The camera panned to a shadowy figure lurking. A chill swept through Ryan. He had seen that person before, that face hidden in the darkness of his mind. Suddenly, just as he was about to voice his panic, a shout rang through the gala hall. "Stop! Stop it now!" The voice was gruff, urgent. All heads turned toward the entrance. A man burst in, breathing heavily, eyes wild. It was Andre, a local journalist known for uncovering scandals. The room held its breath, shock rippling again. What was he doing here? "Ryan, Isla, don't you see? You're in danger." Before he could finish, another figure emerged behind him. A woman followed, her face pale but fierce, eyes fiery. "Andre, no," she cried, panic filling her voice. "Who are you?" Ryan asked, confusion swirling. Who was this woman, and why did she look so familiar? Andrea? Isla's voice dropped, realization dawning. It was Ryan's sister he hadn't seen in years, the one missing from the family's photos, the one he'd been made to forget. "Don't listen to him, he's twisted the story," Andrea shouted, her voice shaking. "Leo's not who you think he is." Gasps echoed as Leo stepped back, stunned. The confidence he once wore fell away, replaced by confusion and fear. "What nonsense is this?" he snapped. But the truth was unraveling. Ava's confusion deepened, her small hands clenching into fists. "What are you saying?" she cried. The innocence in her voice cut the tension. "Leo orchestrated the accident, but he didn't act alone. There's more you don't understand," Andrea said, locking her gaze on Ryan, pleading. "It goes deeper than you think. Trust me." With trembling hands, Ryan struggled to process, his heart pounding in urgent rhythm. The shadows from the past threatened to swallow him whole, memories flooding back like a broken dam. But how could Andrea be back? Why now? The crowd was hushed, whispers swimming through the air. "Is she telling the truth?" one socialite murmured. Could Leo be involved? Ryan's heart raced, clashing emotions swirling within him. "Who can I trust?" he asked, voice barely a whisper. Then the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Panic erupted. Screams burst forth, tension slicing through the air. Just as suddenly, lights blasted back on, illuminating chaos. Someone cried out. A gunshot rang out, echoing like thunder through the gala. Ava stumbled backward, eyes wide with shock. Ryan's heart stopped. "Ava!" he shouted, panic gripping him. He looked around, searching for the source of the sound. Was it all crumbling? The truth, the interwoven stories, the fragile connections. In that blinding moment of horror, everything Ryan thought he knew shifted. What had he uncovered? And who would survive the dark secrets lurking just beneath the surface? The question lingered, heavy and painful. Who among them would emerge unscathed, and who would be left in the shadows? The moment hung in the air, suffocating and electric. Ryan stared at the buzzing phone in his hand. He could feel everyone's eyes, their breaths held in anticipation. The crowd had turned into a single entity, pulsing with tension, eyes wide, hearts racing. They wanted answers. He wanted clarity. "You have to open it, Ryan," Isla urged, stepping closer, determination in her gaze. "It's time to face the truth." With a shaky breath, Ryan pressed the button. The screen filled with a video labeled La Verdad. The bright colors and familiar faces shifted into view. His breath caught in his throat as he saw a memory flash before him. A sunny afternoon. Laughter echoed, a picnic near a sparkling lake. Ryan, fresh-faced and alive, smiling beside Isla. And then the scene shifted. The camera panned to a shadowy figure lurking. A chill swept through Ryan. He had seen that person before, that face hidden in the darkness of his mind. Suddenly, Just as he was about to voice his panic, a shout rang through the gala hall. Alto! Alto ahora! The voice was gruff, urgent. All heads turned toward the entrance. A man burst in, breathing heavily, eyes wild. It was Andres, a local journalist known for uncovering scandals. The room held its breath, shock rippling again. What was he doing here? Ryan, Isla, don't you see? You're in peligro. Before he could finish, another figure emerged behind him. A woman followed, her face pale but fierce, eyes fiery. Andres, no! She cried, panic filling her voice. ¿Quién eres? Ryan asked, confusion swirling. Who was this woman, and why did she look so familiar? Andrea? Isla's voice dropped, realization dawning. It was Ryan's sister he hadn't seen in years, the one missing from the family's photos, the one he'd been made to forget. Don't listen to him, he's twisted the story, Andrea shouted, her voice shaking. Leo's not who you think he is. Gasps echoed as Leo stepped back, stunned. The confidence he once wore fell away, replaced by confusion and fear. What nonsense is this? He snapped. But the truth was unraveling. Ava's confusion deepened, her small hands clenching into fists. What are you saying? She cried. The innocence in her voice cut the tension. Leo orchestrated the accident, but he didn't act alone. There's more you don't understand, Andrea said, locking her gaze on Ryan, pleading. It goes deeper than you think. Trust me. With trembling hands, Ryan struggled to process, his heart pounding in urgent rhythm. The shadows from the past threatened to swallow him whole, memories flooding back like a broken dam. But how could Andrea be back? Why now? The crowd was hushed, whispers swimming through the air. ¿Está diciendo la verdad? One socialite murmured. ¿Podría Leo estar involucrado? Ryan's heart raced, clashing emotions swirling within him. Who can I trust? He asked, voice barely a whisper. Then the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Panic erupted. Screams burst forth, tension slicing through the air. Just as suddenly, lights blasted back on, illuminating chaos. Someone cried out. A gunshot rang out, echoing like thunder through the gala. Ava stumbled backward, eyes wide with shock. Ryan's heart stopped. Ava! He shouted, panic gripping him. He looked around, searching for the source of the sound. Was it all crumbling? The truth, the interwoven stories, the fragile connections? Then, just as silence fell again, a heavy breath came from the corner of the room. A figure shrouded in dark clothing stepped into the light. I'm sorry, the figure said, voice cracking. It had to be done. Ryan's pulse quickened as recognition slammed into him. It was Carmen, the one he thought lost forever. Her eyes darted, wild like a cornered animal. ¿Qué has hecho? Ryan breathed, dread deepening. Carmen stepped forward, shaking. I didn't want to, but they made me. I'm here to tell you the truth about everything. And just like that, the entire foundation of their reality shifted. Would this revelation unite them or destroy them? What followed could change everything they thought they knew. Would the tangled web of deceit finally unravel, or would it pull Ava further into the shadows of their past? The moment hung in the air, suffocating and electric. Ryan stared at the buzzing phone in his hand. Everyone's eyes were locked on him. Breaths held tight in anticipation. The crowd had turned into a single entity, pulsing with tension, hearts racing. They craved answers. He wanted clarity. You have to open it, Ryan, Isla urged, stepping closer, determination blazing in her gaze. It's time to face the truth. With shaking hands, Ryan pressed the button. The screen filled with a video labeled La Verdad. Bright colors flashed, familiar faces, laughter from a sunny afternoon picnic. Ryan felt the pull of nostalgia, then dread gripped him as he saw a shadowy figure lurking in the background. The hairs on his arms stood on end. This was too familiar. Just as panic began to swell inside him, a shout rang through the gala hall. Alto, alto ahora. The voice was gruff, urgent. All heads turned toward the entrance. Andres, a local journalist known for digging up dirt, burst in, breathing heavily, eyes wide with alarm. The atmosphere twisted again. Everyone went silent, shock rippling through the crowd. What was he doing here now? Ryan, Isla, don't you see? You're in peligro. Before he could finish, another figure appeared behind him. The crowd gasped as a woman emerged, breathless but fierce, eyes shimmering with determination. Andres, no, she cried. ¿Quién eres? Ryan asked, confusion swirling. The woman's face sparked a flicker of recognition. Her fiery eyes were unsettlingly familiar. Andrea? Isla's voice sank low, realization settling like a thick fog. It was Ryan's sister, the one he hadn't seen in years, the one embedded in family secrets long since buried. Don't listen to him. He twisted the story, Andrea shouted, frantically, her gaze darting back to Leo. Leo's not who you think he is. Gasps erupted, and all eyes shifted to Leo, who looked utterly bewildered. The confidence he wore like a crown cracked under the weight of truth. What nonsense is this? He snapped, but Andrea pressed on, her voice trembling with urgency. Leo orchestrated the accidente, but he didn't act alone. You have to understand. Ava, watching from behind Ryan, felt fear creep into her small chest. What are you saying? She whispered, straining to grasp the whirlwind around her. Leo's connected to everything. The accident, it was a setup. They're still watching, Andrea pleaded, locking eyes with Ryan, desperation evident. You can't trust anyone. Ryan's heart raced, clashing emotions swirling within him. And just then, the lights flickered, plunging the gala into darkness. Panic erupted as screams pierced the air, slicing through confusion. Ava! Ryan shouted, feeling frozen. He reached for her, the tiny spark of her presence grounding him. Then, a deafening sound broke through chaos. A gunshot echoed, sharp as glass shattering. The room jolted, a collective gasp washing over the crowd. Ava stumbled backward, eyes wide with shock. Ryan's heart dropped. Ava, he shouted again, panic tightening his chest. Suddenly, as silence fell again, a figure emerged, draped in dark clothing, stepping into the flickering light. I'm sorry, the figure's voice broke, raw with regret. It had to be done. Recognition slammed into Ryan, hitting him like a freight train. It was Carmen, his old confidant, the one he thought lost forever. Why was she here now? ¿Qué has hecho? Ryan breathed, dread pooling in his stomach. He stepped forward, hope and fear clashing within him. I didn't want this, but they made me. Carmen's eyes shimmered with tears, a glimmer of anguish. I'm here to tell you everything. With that, the room fell still. All eyes on her, breaths caught like fish out of water. What truth could she possibly unravel now? Then she began to speak, her words hanging heavy in the air. The truth is, Ryan, you're not who you think you are. Shockwaves reverberated through the crowd. The very foundation of Ryan's existence trembled. What could possibly turn the reality he knew on its head? Questions swirled in the air. Who was he really? What lay beneath the surface of his life? In that instant, they were no longer just uncovering crimes. They were unearthing an identity that could change everything. And as whispers began to ripple through the crowd, the uncertainty stared back at Ryan with haunting eyes. What was the truth about himself that Carmen was about to reveal? The room fell dead silent, all eyes fixed on Carmen. The truth is, Ryan, you're not who you think you are. Ryan's heart raced. The shockwaves of her words echoed through the charged atmosphere. What could she possibly mean? Carmen, what are you talking about? He whispered, urgency clawing at his throat. Ava stood beside him, confusion and fear etching her young face. ¿Qué significa eso? She asked, her small voice trembling. Ryan turned to see Isla's expression, morphed from surprise to concern, 1,000 questions swirling behind her eyes. Before Carmen could respond, another gunshot rang out. This time, it was closer. Tension rippled through the room like a lightning bolt. The crowd recoiled, shrieks piercing the air as people pushed and pulled, searching for safety. Ryan's instincts kicked in. "Ava, get down," he shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her behind him. And then everything changed. The lights flickered wildly, casting dark shadows that danced around them. Suddenly, the crowd parted like a wave, and Leo moved through, pulling something from his jacket. Ryan's stomach sank. Had he brought a weapon? Was he the source of the chaos? "Stop," Leo yelled, desperation cutting through his bravado. The crowd inched back, their eyes darting, searching for escape, but none could look away from the unfolding drama. That's when Carmen took a step closer to Leo, her gaze unwavering. "You're not the only one who can pull strings, Leo," she declared, voice low. "I know what happened that night. I know the truth." Ryan's breath hitched. "Carmen, don't." But she continued, voice rising. "You may think you're in control, but the people you work with, they pulled me back into this. They want you to fail." And then the twist dropped like a bombshell. "Ryan, you're not just Ryan." Her words sent a shiver through him. "You were never meant to be just Ryan, the paralyzed millionaire. You were born into this web, created to take down Leo and his empire from within." The revelation hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Ryan staggered back, confusion wrapping around his mind. "What? How? I don't understand." Carmen's eyes softened momentarily, pain swirling within. "Your real identity was hidden to protect you. They thought they could erase who you are, but you've always been a key piece. You have to remember." But before she could finish, another figure emerged behind her. A man, tall and handsome, with a familiar face that echoed through Ryan's memories. "Carmen, don't," he shouted, dragging her back. "We can't trust him." "Ricardo?" Ryan gasped, shock tearing through him. "What are you doing here?" "Ryan, you have to listen to her. They've manipulated you since you were born. Your past is tied to this." He gestured to Leo, who stood frozen, realization crossing his features. The crowd buzzed with whispers. Uncertainty and fear fused into a thick fog of confusion. Carmen stepped closer to Ryan again. "You're meant for more than this life. You can't let them win." But a scuffle broke out. Leo lunged towards Ricardo, and chaos erupted. Ryan's heart thudded painfully in his chest as he realized everything he thought he knew was wrong. This was bigger than him, bigger than Ava. Amidst the chaos, Ava pulled at Ryan's hand. "What does this mean, Ryan?" Her eyes were pleading, and he felt lost, like the ground had crumbled beneath him. "Wait," Ryan shouted desperately, trying to piece together the words swirling in the air. "What is happening?" Before anyone could answer, the lights went out again, plunging the room back into darkness. Gasps filled the air. A loud crash followed, and a new voice rang out, sharp and cold, echoing through the shadows. "Enough of this foolishness." The crowd fell silent, and there it was, that spine-tingling feeling of dread creeping back in. Who was it? What was going to happen next? Ryan squeezed Ava's hand tightly, heart racing. Would they survive this? Would the truths brought to light help or hurt them all? The room fell dead silent, all eyes fixed on Carmen. "The truth is, Ryan, you're not who you think you are." Shockwaves of her words echoed, twisting the air around them. Ryan's heart raced. What could she possibly mean? "Carmen, what are you talking about?" He whispered, urgency choking his voice. Ava stood beside him, her small face a portrait of confusion and fear. "¿Qué significa eso?" she asked, eyes darting between the adults, desperate for clarity. Just then, another gunshot rang out, piercing through the tense atmosphere. Ryan's heart leaped. "Ava," he shouted, instinctively stepping in front of her, protecting her from the chaos that was spiraling. The crowd recoiled, screams knocking against the walls. In the midst of the bedlam, Leo lunged. "This is a trap," he shouted, eyes wide with a mix of dread and anger. The continuous noise sent waves of fear through everyone, the air thickening. Carmen took a step closer to Leo, determination etched in her features. "You think you hold all the cards? Think again." Her voice wavered but held an undeniable strength. The lights flickered, casting frantic shadows across the room. Ryan's breath hitched as he watched Leo's face paled. "You lost everything the day the accident happened," Carmen said defiantly. "Enough!" A booming voice cut through the panic. The crowd parted, and a tall figure stepped out from the shadows, dressed in a suit as dark as his intentions. It was Diego, the underworld kingpin, known for his ruthless dealings. Attention grew. Silence swallowed the room. Ryan's pulse quickened. "What are you doing here?" he nearly shouted at Diego, confusion mixing with dread. Diego smirked, a cold satisfaction flickering in his eyes. "Just making sure nothing goes wrong, Ryan." With that, Carmen glanced back at Ryan, her eyes sparkling with urgency. "You need to listen. They're coming for you, for all of us." "Who?" Ryan growled, his confusion turning into frustration. "Your father." She hesitated as if the name could summon ghosts. "He's alive. He's behind everything." No, it couldn't be. Ryan's mind spun. How could the man he thought was gone return now? Doubt flooded him, but his heart raced. If this was true, then everything he had ever known was a lie. "Eso no es posible." Ava darted forward, her small voice shaking with disbelief. "You're scaring me." Diego stepped forward, eyes narrowing. "You should be scared, Niña." His voice was smooth but heavy, dripping with threat. "You have no idea what you're entangled in." A frantic flicker of movement caught Ryan's eye. Out of the shadows, another figure emerged, one Ryan recognized, his heart leaping in both terror and confusion. "Sophia?" His mother, looking frailer than he remembered, stepped forward. "Ryan, listen." Tears streamed down her face, mixing fear with desperation. "I didn't want." Before she could finish, the lights dimmed again. The crowd gasped, glancing around, nerves on edge. From the deep shadows, a gunshot echoed, followed by a sharp crack of glass. Chaos erupted as crowd members pushed and pulled, seeking an exit. Ava screamed, "Ryan!" But before he could reach for her, everything changed in an instant. Diego, quick as lightning, lunged forward, wrenching the gun from an unknown attacker. "This is about to get messy," he snarled, spinning around. Ryan's heart raced, confusion swirled. Was he caught in a deadly game? Would he lose everything before he could unravel the truth about his life, about his father? "To find the truth, Ryan, you must embrace the chaos," Diego shouted, pointing the gun toward the ceiling, just as the lights flickered back on, illuminating the scene with blinding clarity. Beneath the chaos, he saw the faces, families torn apart by lies, friendships severed by dark secrets. And amidst it all was Ava, a beacon of hope trapped in a storm. His heart ached, memories rushing back. How could he protect her when the ground beneath them shifted? What awaited them in this tangled web of deceit? In that space, as the echoes of gunfire hung around them, the sudden twist opened a Pandora's box. Who could be trusted? And with every heartbeat, the web grew tighter, pulling them deeper into a nightmare neither of them had chosen. What lay ahead? The question loomed, heavy with anticipation. The room was thick with tension, hearts pounding like war drums. Ryan stood paralyzed, caught between disbelief and panic. Carmen had just laid the truth bare, and now they were teetering on the edge of chaos. Diego stood there, gun in hand, his eyes glinting with a dark thrill as the crowd held its collective breath. Would a bullet fly, or would another truth unravel? "Enough," he shouted, and the crowd flinched, eyes wide. "If any of you value your lives, you will listen to me." He pointed the gun at Carmen, and Ryan felt the world tip on its axis. You think you're safe here? Diego sneered, his voice a low growl. You've all underestimated how deep the roots go. Ava clutched Ryan's arm, fear pooling in her eyes, and he felt her trembling. Stay behind me, he whispered, his voice firm, even as his heart raced. And just when it seemed the pressure would crush them, a sound sliced through the air, heavy and human. Shame on you. The crowd parted like curtains, revealing a woman gliding through, her presence like a storm. It was Valentina, a figure from the past, fiercely beautiful, eyes lit with anger. Diego, you can't control all of us forever. Her tone was a whip crack, electrifying. Valentina? Ryan breathed, recognition flooding him. She was a ghost from a longing past, a memory tied to the chaos surrounding them. She continued, voice rising. You're clinging to control, but you can't hide from the truth forever. Cállate, Diego barked, increasingly agitated as he turned toward Valentina. I'm done playing games. Suddenly, without warning, a gunshot rang out, ear-splitting and sharp. The world seemed to tilt, and Ryan's heart dropped. In a surreal moment, it was like time had slowed. Valentina fell to her knees, hands clutching her wounded side, shock and betrayal mingling in her eyes. The realization crashed over Ryan like a wave. Diego had shot her. A wave of horror rushed through him. No, he shouted, horrified by the chaos that crushed down around them. Ava cried out, and Ryan turned to her, panic carving deep lines on his forehead. Get back! Everyone move! Gasps turned to screams. The crowd surged, pushing away from the chaos erupting before them. But the shock didn't stop there. As Valentina writhed, clutching her wound, Carmen stepped forward, her eyes fierce. You're fighting the inevitable, she yelled at Diego, rage igniting her words. Then she pointed. You think you can threaten us with guns? It only shows your weakness. The room held its breath, every gaze shifting back and forth, trying to grasp what was unfolding. As Valentina collapsed, a piece of paper fluttered from her hand, landing at Ryan's feet. He snatched it up, heart racing. The ink was smudged, but he could read a single name written boldly, Luciano. Who is Luciano? He whispered, his voice trembling as he turned it over, grasping for context. He felt a knot in his stomach form. Carmen's eyes widened. No, it can't be. Who is he? Ryan demanded, desperation edging his voice. What does he have to do with all this? In that charged moment, Diego's face twisted with realization. You don't know? He hissed, a bitter laugh escaping. Luciano is your father, Ryan. Your real father. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt, shattering what remained of Ryan's reality. Everything began to spin. The whispers, the secrets. Was he a pawn in this game all along? Ava's gaze darted between Ryan and the chaos around them. What's happening? She cried, confusion etched in her features. As Ryan struggled not to drown in this sea of uncertainty, he stared at Diego, fear and fury surging. You're lying. But Diego only smiled, dark and triumphant. The truth is a powerful weapon, Ryan. And now, it's your turn to decide. Will you join me, or will you go down like the rest? Ryan felt the walls close in, shadows dancing with whispers of betrayal. He grasped Ava's hand tightly, shaking with the weight of what was revealed. Could he trust anyone? Would the threads of his life continue unraveling? What lay ahead? The question burned in his mind as the chaos swirled, deeper than ever. And as uncertainty loomed, Ryan wondered how much more truth would emerge from this tangled web. Ryan's head spun as Diego's words cut through the chaos. The weight of the revelation about Luciano felt like a lead weight pressing down on him. You're lying, he shouted, but the conviction in Diego's eyes unnerved him. But before he could respond, Valentina gasped, and every eye turned towards her. You must stop this, Diego, she cried, pain flickering across her face. This cycle of vengeance needs to end. Diego shot her a venomous glare, the gun still gripping tight in his hand. "You think you can talk your way out of this?" His voice was cold, but the fire in his eyes flickered ever so slightly. Just then, Carmen stepped closer to Ryan, determination seeping into her every breath. "Ryan, you have to believe me. The truth is powerful. It can break the cycle." And there it was, the glimmer of hope amid the shadows. It was enough to unlock something in Ryan's heart, a rush of bravery. "You're right, but I can't do this alone," he said, looking deeply into Carmen's eyes. Ava tugged at his sleeve, her little voice cutting through the tumult. "You won't let them take us away, right?" Ryan knelt down to her level, feeling her fear encircle him like a vice. "No, mija, I promise. We'll figure this out together." A moment passed, filled with uncertainty, the air still crackling with tension. Diego flexed his fingers on the gun, but his eyes were filled with doubt. The crowd collectively held its breath, hoping for a resolution. Then, without warning, Valentina moved forward, her voice steady despite the pain. "This can't continue, Diego. Ryan deserves to know the truth. He deserves to take control of his life." The words hung in the air, a challenge ringing in the silence. One by one, faces in the crowd began to nod, showing solidarity with Ryan. "You don't have to be alone in this. We're with you," a voice shouted from the back. Empowered by their support, Ryan straightened his back. "Diego, you're playing a dangerous game. This isn't just about power, it's about lives." "Ava's my world. She deserves better," the crowd murmured, tension shifting as they sensed momentum building against Diego. For a brief moment, Diego's eyes darted, uncertainty flickering. "You think you can just turn everyone against me?" he snapped, but the edge in his voice trembled. In the quiet chaos, Carmen seized the moment. "You're outnumbered. You can choose to fight or walk away. Does the legacy you crave mean more than the lives that could be lost today?" Diego hesitated, breathing hard. The weight of the gun seemed to grow heavier in his hand. Then something shifted in the air. The determination in Ryan's eyes, supported by not just Carmen, but the crowd, struck a chord deep within. "I won't be your pawn," Ryan said fiercely, stepping forward. "I refuse to let the past control my future anymore." And in that moment, Diego's resolve crumbled like old stone. He dropped the gun, it clattering to the floor, echoing in the sudden silence that filled the room. I didn't want it to end this way," he muttered. His facade breaking, revealing a man who was just as trapped in his choices as Ryan had been. Carmen rushed in, her hand resting on Ryan's shoulder. "You did the right thing," she said, warmth in her eyes. As the police sirens wailed in the distance, Ryan felt a sense of weight lift from his heart, a burden he didn't know he had been carrying. "It's time for healing," he whispered, more to himself than anyone else. Ava clutched his hand. The web of secrets felt far from over. As the room began to empty, Ryan looked around, knowing he couldn't let this moment slip away. The faces of those he cared about were illuminated by the soft glow of new beginnings. But there was still so much unknown. And just like that, his world felt expansive again, populated by both shadows and light, lingering mysteries yet to unfold. Before you go, this is the moment to show your support. You have to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the exclusive, thrilling stories coming your way. Smash that like button now. It helps the algorithm and keeps the stories alive. And don't skip this. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. What do you think happens next? Your voice matters. Lastly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Don't wait another second to be part of this incredible journey.